So welcome back, first of all. Obviously, we have a part one, and I would highly encourage everybody to go listen to the part one. It's kind of a synopsis of some of your life and work and career and some of your thoughts. On this one, we wanted to continue it, and we started off by talking a little bit about Web3, and just before we click record, the oddities of working in Web3, of the disconnect between any sort of work-life balance at all, as well as the issues of actually leaving a Web3 project and the differences in accountability between Web2 and Web3. So maybe we can kind of recap some of that and just share some of the summaries there. And then I would actually love to, on the second half of this, dive into some of your research and your thoughts and learnings on different world religions if we have time. So take it away, my friend.
Hey, and thank you very much, Ben. Yeah, so no, it's first of all, it's honestly a pleasure to be back. So, yeah, I mean, I think just a bit of a recap for what we were talking about just a little bit prior to this meeting today was really about how like accountability works really in Web3, but also how we recognize when people obviously are having life change within Web3 as well, and really what as teams we do to support that, but also what the worker has to understand from a management perspective as well, and I guess how we all kind of work in harmony in that sense of like the, in quotes, like gentleman's agreement, and really just getting that true understanding that we're all working towards the same goal, and what we can really do to create harmony throughout a business within Web3, almost somewhat as we do in Web2. I just think it's just really interesting topic to cover.
Yeah, 100%. I would actually love to dive into that a little bit more again on the whole part of different thoughts on accountability, or maybe different expectations on accountability depending on where you are. Like in Web2, when you say, hey, I need this by this time, that's kind of expected in a way, or at least it's very much normalized. Like, okay, we have deadlines, we got to get this done, people show up to meetings on time, etc. But a Web3, it definitely feels like there's a different vibe to that. Maybe you can kind of explore what you've seen there, and what do you think is the better model, or the best model? Maybe it's some sort of hybrid there. Like what should that look like in an optimal work environment?
Yeah, so I mean, something that and still very fairly early on was really around, I suppose, schedules of when you will be in the business. Obviously, you know, Web3, we want to make sure that we're always kept really flexible with the teams, but also that, you know, you can't essentially just really up and leave for a huge period of time. And, you know, we say huge period of time, and time is very different in Web3, because really we work on a 24-hour rota. Whereas in work, you would expect, and someone works really from like 9 to 5 or 9 to 6, depending on what kind of job. And really, because Web3 is so different, expectations become a little bit different. But also, when you're all kind of meeting up as a team, then there kind of needs to be this understanding that we're all trying to get to the same place, and we all just want to communicate. And what does that look like to you as a team member, and what does that look like from us as a management team? You know, is it that we have meetings once every 2 weeks? Do you feel that that's more comfortable to meet your lifestyle, that you could attend? And really, what does not attending look like as well? You know, we in Web3, I suppose, value time, because time could be trading, time could be learning about the new meta, or time could be trading shitcoins. But how do we make sure that their time is always used appropriately, but also that they respect the time that is given from the team, from, I suppose, I guess, the management team, to really drive them forward. And I think that's just a really interesting part, where do people really feel that they have to turn up or attend, or but essentially, what do they want to give to you, and what do you want to give to them? And it's a very interesting dynamic that certainly I've had within a few different projects that I've worked on. And where do we really go from here? And kind of what's, I guess, Ben, what's your thoughts really around this?
Yeah, that's a great question. I definitely think that there are a lot of people who spend a lot of time just absorbing things in Web3. And it's like the argument can be made, okay, well, I'm spending time learning, or I'm getting exposure to the space, or I have to stay on because I can't miss this 100x, my favorite shitcoin, or I've got to do this 3 a.m. mint because it'll mint out, blah, 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 blah. And I think one of the things we might want to keep in mind when we are tempted to get spread like that is, what are the chances of actually hitting all of those different things all at the same time, especially if you're trying to do all of those and try to be able to think clearly to make good decisions, manage your emotions, and those two things go intertwined. And I've been a big believer lately of basically simplifying everything and cutting things down to the most essential things. And even when it comes to, when it comes to running your own business, like what are the one or two things that are going to make all the difference? And can you take, instead of trying to spread across all of these different, spread horizontally across all of these different opportunities or the different things that you're trying to do, could you not instead, for the various things in your life, outsource or delegate to other people a lot of the things, and then instead you've decreased your surface area of exposure and attention, and now you can take all of that reclaimed attention and energy and effort and go very deep vertically into one big thing. It's not to say you can't have a lot of different things, or you can't have a lot of different initiatives going on, but to really be able to know, like, what is the most important thing. If we keep in mind from an investing perspective, for example, Charlie Munger and Warren Buffett, albeit very skeptical of Web3 and crypto and blah, 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 they have a tremendous track record and nobody can argue with that. And they have said many different times, and I've studied them a lot, read a lot of what they've written, listened to a lot of their content as far as the different interviews they've given. And then they do hours upon hours of question and answer at their annual events. And they've said many times, all of the success that they've had could be boiled down to 12 good decisions between the two of them, spanning close to 100 years old. Both of them are. So 200 years, 12 good decisions. If that doesn't tell you the power of focusing and putting it all into one big thing and then just making that thing awesome, I'm not sure what does.
But does that really then allude to the point of really narrowing down what things you should be focusing on and getting really some direction in itself before you set out on your tasks? Because you could also spend 100 years really scrambling around and not really ever finding direction. I suppose the big part that you find in, I guess, Web3 at the moment, or even previously before, is who is essentially the people to follow or to look into, that essentially does drive you forward into a direction where you can be, I guess, more knowledgeable in your trade. Traditional trading, you can focus on the, if you want to focus on the car industry as being, what you predominantly trade in, or electronics, or if you want to, whatever you tend to, I mean, especially when I was traditional trading, I would very much focus on one thing that I could read everything about, as opposed to kind of spreading across, and that did particularly well for me. But I think it's very difficult. It's very difficult in Web3, because really, at some points, you can't necessarily delegate, especially when trading, for someone else to go find the information for you, because a lot of people within Web3 gatekeep, because they don't necessarily want that information being shared, or it's in very inner groups. And how do we break that norm that we're all actually trying to work together to build a space, rather than just work against each other?
Now, that's a good question as well. I actually don't think the answer is to convert the incumbent people who don't think that way. I think the answer is to team up with the people who were going to team up, and to build those partnerships and then do the collabs, and through sheer demonstration of results of your superior strategy, then like a chess game, queen to b4, they're forced to move, and they're forced to adopt, or they get left behind. And either the people that are a part of that community that does not adopt will move to the communities that do adopt, or they just fall behind and they move into irrelevance as the people who do adopt and, adapt and adopt, same thing, adopt the new strategies, adapt to the new strategies as they move forward, and they continue to prosper. What do you think?
With a falling uptake on the Web3 market at the moment, obviously it's very difficult. I mean, we have to understand we're doing this recording during what is essentially quite a bad bear season for NFTs at the moment. Lots of projects losing large amounts of followers, and floor prices of NFTs falling dramatically. But then equally, you look at a different sector where people who are trading shitcoins and who are earning 100,000 a day. But equally, you see a lot of people who essentially don't embrace what really Web3 is in its entirety. And really, it's like, it's very difficult at the moment that you're trying to essentially teach a wider group of people about about everything that actually goes on in Web3. But some people seem, especially like not necessarily stuck in their own way, but afraid, and equally don't really know where to start. And I think it's very hard that you can try and teach people a lot of the time, but equally the fear of losing all your money is apparent. I think the Web3 for a lot of people is driven by money, as a lot of trading is driven by money. And the connections that you have really for a lot of people is financially, what am I going to gain from this? And I think it's really at that point the disconnect of, I'm just learning something else that could mean that I actually become a dev, a year down the line because of the people that I've met, and really seeing actually that there's so much more value to Web3 in itself if I really dive into the people who are around me. But then there's that worry of sharing, like sharing experience. Or if I teach someone how to be a dev, does that mean that I'm now going to get less work because I've taught someone else? And whereas in Web 2, we would just see that as an apprenticeship. Whereas almost it's in Web 3, you're taking it away from me. You're taking away my job opportunities because you're looking at such a small group of people.
Yeah, that's interesting. I actually think those that, well, first of all, we just got to look at the market, like what's actually happening out there. If you learn to dev, teach others to dev, and build a group of people who you're empowering, are they moving on to bigger and better things, or are you leveling up in order to be able to keep helping them level up? Because I think as long as you can keep giving them what they need to grow and you all grow together, then the incentives are such that they will stay with you and y'all can keep growing and building together. So that's probably one aspect of it. And the second aspect is, I would imagine that in the depths of the depths of the bear, which it appears we are at the moment, things are definitely going to be more difficult. But that is when the character of those will probably most reveal themselves, because the people that are still here, they're still here. That says a lot of it in and of itself. So there's survivorship bias of like the ones that continue on give themselves more chances to be successful and to continue, because those that were not typically are going to leave, and so they're not counted anymore as in the count, So I it's probably a combination of those two. What do you think?
Yeah, and I think that's I think that we all need to recognize that we are all at this present point in time trying to survive, not trying to work against each other, because in this season things become so much more isolated, when actually in this situation we should be banding together to push us forward, because we won't essentially ever break out of it if we don't work as a collective. I think that's sometimes missed by a lot of people, is in a situation where things are more difficult, actually we should be looking to work together a lot more, because if the 600-700 people who are active in our community mix with another 300 who are active in another community, actually doing cross community events, it is really actually going to potentially get more buyers for each project, but actually just create this better this better environment for all of us. And I can see that you click through different channels and servers in Discord, and some people are really struggling, where at that point in time we should be outreaching more than ever to be like, hey, I haven't necessarily got anything for an AMA wise, but how about we just do some cross community like poker tournament or Uno event, or art competition, or when we can just band together to have some kind of fun, and give out some prizes, or really just do something to work together and create actually better partnerships, as opposed to my project needs to win the hearts of these communities so they come over to us and then they never go back. Like, really, we wouldn't ever really want that. Actually, an amazing part of the of the ball season was I can't keep up with the amount of groups that are going off, and now it's like, well, maybe I'm just staying in one, and you're missing the great things from every other community, and how we can actually work with that a little bit more. and not being so isolated is something that I personally really want to focus on, especially with the project I work on currently, and going out there and be like, hey, I can't offer you this, but do you want to just have fun? And hopefully that will kind of have some longer lasting effect.
Now that's fascinating. Can you actually talk a little bit about what you're building and talk about like ideal ideal partnerships or the things that you're looking for that are like the kind of value add that you're talking about? Because obviously you're living this every day, so your perspective is really, really interesting for people that may kind of be a little bit more on the outside, or maybe a participant in projects and not necessarily being like the lead on projects.
Yeah, so I think we so the project that I work on is a project called Udo. So what we really focus on is, I mean, originally we came from near Tokyo. There's a few people who were working in the space as devs, as traders, and we kind of essentially just not necessarily moved to one side, but we were just sharing information. We just got along really well, and from there, we found that there were really almost like 5 different types of people within Web3. And you've got friends, so people who just want to vibe. You've got people who are degens who want to trade constantly, who want to be looking at what's a free mint, what's POAPs, what really just trying to go out and get the best alpha possible. You've got people who tend to be analyzers, so people who are really just maybe traditional traders, or who want to go like deep diving into projects and writing up great things for the community around, okay, this project's great because of X, Y, and Z, or this is how to essentially track the market. And or then we've got people who are more creative, who of course in its nature will either be much more towards the art side of things, or music. And then essentially you've got builders who like your devs, people who want to build projects, people who want to build bots, or and essentially what we really do is try and cater towards all 5 pillars, and do seminar sorry, so we do so like value theorems, which is essentially people come up for about half an hour to an hour. We do a slideshow and a presentation, and just talk through with people like on VC, like how to instill Maestro, how to trade shitcoins for the very first time, like what they would essentially use, different websites if they're really conscious about if it's a rug, or if it's if that dev has created 10 other coins and they've all rugged. And essentially we're just giving them the tools to be able to level themselves up. And that's actually characterized in their Udo, which is essentially it's a digital monster that is on chain, and you actually level your Udo, and it's kind of almost very Pokemon-esque, Digimon style, where the more you interact with trading, the more you interact with building, you will gain XP. Your XP essentially will level up your Udo and actually evolve, and you can customize it. It's a very small 333 collection, but really the main part of it is really just the progression of the person within Web3. If they become a degen, but then they also start being a builder as well, it actually starts taking on traits of a builder style Udo, and they're all kind of like categorized. So it's your journey is actually in your NFT itself, and you become a lot more connected, and it's very personal, and you can buy different skins, different backgrounds, there are lots of mechanics behind it, but it's the first, from our perspective, NFT that you actually level up and evolve and take on traits and have a genuine personal connection with.
That's awesome. I love the idea of gamifying the experience and having experience points and rewarding people for making progress in their own lives. I love that.
It's just a very different way to essentially try and push people forward. Like it incentivizes them into learning, and then we go out, we get bounties from different communities. We've done like contracts for essentially other projects, and they will actually be rewarded XP based on them doing contract work. So we will pay them from that contract from the other project, but also at the same time they will gain XP because they've done something to help. So it's again incentivizes. So we go out, we look for different work in other projects that people may need that we have experience in, and then not only give them the money from that, but also give them XP to essentially level up their Udo. And
That's
over
excellent.
time, you will see, so it is a fundamental way of promoting people through Web3 itself.
And how do you aggregate those different jobs or contracts or bounties, whatever it's called?
Yeah, so essentially on in Discord, we have a bot that's set up that will essentially state the job title. They will apply for the job title or apply for the job. We will essentially vet them beforehand, and we will kind of be there in the background of that as well. So it's kind of not just, here's the person here's the person who can help you. We always try and make sure that we always stay very close with that project at the same time. Like, how's it all getting on? Are they communicating okay? Right, do we need to help like pick up anything, or is there some additional support that you need? And we're very open with, this is the amount that we're going to get paid, this is the amount that you would get, so you're equally rewarded for the job. But it's much, like, maybe even much more smaller contract work. So I've done ARGs for different projects where essentially the people who are working on it are all getting like $500-600 for their time. So essentially you're just paying people, like, you've got a team of maybe 4 or 5 people working on this to create a really good experience for the project that obviously we've taken on a contract for, and they will get the money from that. So we, as a team, we will set up obviously non-disclosure agreements. We will sort out all the contracts. Really, all they've got to really do is actually just the work and just have fun.
Wow, that's incredible. That's such an awesome bit of utility for your people. I mean, you're literally helping them move forward in their lives and their careers.
I think it's a really just unique take on how how we really utilize people's abilities in Web3. If I've met some amazing people who are incredible in many different ways, and really just kind of saying that you don't just have to necessarily trade or even take a long-term contract in Web3. You have to work for a project, but you can do very small bits of work, and you're in and out. Okay, cool, right, I can help, I can do that, I can see the money, right, let's go get it. And it's very completionist, like you can just get in and out, done, I've helped. That also gets my name out there as well. We promote that. They obviously get promoted to the new projects community as well, so their name gets out there. And it's just this really It's just this nice harmony that essentially moves us forward. And it's not even just for the project side of it. It's actually just for it's more for the person to move them forward. Yes, that creates a home for work within Web3 for us, and for them as well, that they know that they can always come back. They've got good friends, they've got people who can help, but also they've got contract work as well that they can take up if they need.
I love that. So I actually don't think we're going to get to our to our conversation. So we'll need to have a part 3.
Yeah.
But
No,
will
to be
you
fair, like,
go ahead.
no, go ahead.
Go for it. Go for it.
Okay. Yeah. No. So yeah, I just think it's. I really just think, like, within the season that we're currently in, that's the type of mentality that we need to really be having, is not so isolated, and to really have this great opportunity where there are survivors in this space who are here for a reason. And if they're here for a reason because they are that friend pillar who want to just hang out and vibe, then if that's what makes them come back to it every day, maybe there's much more of an underlying reason as to why they're in this space, and is an opportunity for us to actually start becoming friends. And when you're in a small group of people, like, really like Web3 currently is, we should all just be acting as friends trying to pull us forward. Because when people start flocking to the space, there will be, and you will be better positioned to move yourself forward. And you'll have a stronger community than you've ever had before, of people that you can turn to, who you've built connections with for such a long time. And I think that that's something that we really need to be looking at the moment.
I couldn't have said that better. Because what'll happen is, as we're all getting solidified here now between each other, that will only compound over time. That only gets more awesome over time. And so then when the rest of the world catches up, we've already been here building this whole time. And now we basically have this alliance of the people that, like, if like, the good people that you want to be around. Then when the rest of the people come in, where do you think that they're going to want to go? If you really think about it, they're probably going to want to go where the other good people are. And so if you can demonstrate that beforehand and get in now, while it's kind of like any period where, like peak euphoria, it's kind of hard to break into new circles. But when it's in the depths of the bear, like, everybody's pretty open to it, and they're pretty willing, because everybody's suffering a bit in one way or the other. And now's the time. Like, now is absolutely the time to go out, build your partnerships, build your relationships, build your friendships, and then grow together and compound those relationships over time. Yeah, I mean, you already kind of said it, but I'm just kind of repeating what you were saying at this point. But I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, I think it's just, and where you've got people who want to push forward, who really have a vision, if you don't know their vision because you don't talk to them, then you don't know whether you can help them, or whether your even visions align. And even if yours don't, then really it's that all they're ever trying to do is move the space forward, even if their project isn't what your project is. But if it is, you could have the next thing that is going to be huge. But and that's the real value of the people who are in the space at the moment, is actually see pure value of what actually the space can give and can achieve.
That's right. I think it's very clear to see that the people that are going to be building now and sticking around now, these are the people that you want to know in the next 5, 10, 15, 20 plus years, because these are going to be the movers and shifters of one of the most incredible industries on the planet right now. As far as I'm concerned, it's, it's easily one of the top, top that there is. And obviously we're both spending a lot of time here, so it's very important to
It's
both
the most
of us.
progressive. Yeah, it's the most progressive, and the most. I think the one thing that people really forget is, in this space that we build now, you really do have the opportunity to change things.
100%. Oh, 100%. And quickly.
Yeah.
Too. Well, SDC, my friend, I have to admit that I did not get to a single item on the agenda. But it was super fun nonetheless. I'm really glad we went off onto this side tangent. I feel like we always find a lot of fun side quests to go on in our conversation. So I just want to say that I'm incredibly grateful for you, and thank you for the episode number 2, and I'm excited for episode 3.
Yeah, definitely, man. Honestly, it's a pleasure, and having to catch up and really just getting kind of the thoughts of 2 rambling young men who essentially just really want to move everything forward. And that's the biggest thing.
100%. And at least one of these rambling young men is very successful and a very deep thinker, and I'm very grateful for you being that one, so I can learn.
No, I have to say you. So.
Awesome, man.
Honestly,
well, a pleasure as always. Everybody watching and listening, definitely go and follow SDC everywhere and just soak up all the knowledge. Obviously you share very freely, so I want to just push everybody over to you, and just want to thank you again.
Yeah, no, thank you very much for your time today, Ben, and thanks to everyone for listening.